Welcome, my curious souls, to the very first live taping of Eerie Echoes with Miss B's Halloween Live Special. And what better setting than here at the historic Rialto Theatre in Canton, Pennsylvania. Tonight we are going to go on a journey of spine-tingling tales, adventure, and we're going to go into an unforgettable evening of storytelling and even a little exploration that occurred here at the theatre earlier today. I'm Miss B, here to guide you through the thrills and chills ahead, and I couldn't be more thrilled to be on the stage, sharing the stage with some amazing people that have called in and have also come up from the Williamsport area to participate in an investigation that we did here at the theater. So tonight, on stage, we have Lycoming County historian Elaine Decker, paranormal investigator and psychic clairvoyant Adam Wilson, and we have paranormal investigator and psychic clairvoyant Sabrina Beakley. What Elaine has done is Elaine has gone through and she's done a little bit of a history research of the Rialto Theatre in the Canton area. And then Adam and Sabrina have worked on their own, and they've come up. Adam's actually written a prediction for tonight of something that he saw during the middle of the week. I'm not going to let too much out of the bag, but let me just say, and if that weren't enough, tonight we've gone into a very deep paranormal investigation of this beautiful theater, which possibly could be haunted.
It's haunted.
Thank you so much to everybody for coming out tonight, and really thank you. So we write, produce, shoot, interview, do all of this show, the two of us. Then Diego takes it back to his lab. He works his amazing magic on it, and then we come up with the video part of things that we share with our YouTube audience. So our show is literally our love letters to the mysterious world around us. You can follow us wherever you find your podcasts at Eerie Echoes Show, and you can follow us on YouTube at Eerie Echoes with Miss B on the YouTube channel. It's through the Eerie Echoes with Miss B show that we hope to explore mysteries and explore with curiosity and awe, searching for answers and maybe just a little thrill on the way. So cozy up, dim the lights, sit back, and dive into the eerie unknown. Eerie Echoes with Miss B starts now.
Goes with Miss B. Halloween Live. Paranormal. A word stitched together, Frankenstein, from two key pieces. Para, meaning beyond or outside of, and normal, meaning, well, typical. Paranormal, then, should simply mean that which lies beyond the ordinary. But does it really? How extraordinary can something really be when nearly everyone has experienced it at some point? It seems almost impossible, given how much we're drawn to the spooky, the mysterious, and the unknown, that anyone could escape a brush with the paranormal. Whether a flicker in the dark, a whisper in the silence, or a shadow that doesn't belong, most of us have had that moment, a glimpse of the beyond. From ghosts hiding behind a corner to strange lights zipping across the sky, our world is filled with eerie, mysterious happenings. And while some experiences are downright creepy, like the sound of footsteps in an empty house or a door creaking open in the dead of night, others are more subtle, like a shiver crawling up your arm for no apparent reason, or that odd feeling of being watched when you're all alone. The paranormal isn't just a figment of the imagination. It's something we've all encountered in one way or another, whether it's a strange event in our own lives or the stories that we hear. From ghosts to UFOs, cryptids like Bigfoot or the Mothman, there are countless tales that stretch beyond what we consider normal, and we can't seem to get enough of them. The supernatural isn't just reserved for haunted houses or late-night horror flicks. It's woven into our culture in the most unexpected ways. Think about how many movies, books, and TV shows are based on paranormal happenings. From Casper the Friendly Ghost to The X-Files, we love a good mystery, especially when it keeps us guessing. It's the thrill of the unknown, the tantalizing possibility that something might be out there, and yet, today, even the skeptics are starting to wonder. Skeptical? Sure, many people are. It's only natural to want proof. But with more news reports of strange phenomena, from UFO disclosures to bizarre encounters in the woods, people are starting to ask, what if? What if these stories hold a kernel of truth? What if there's more out there than meets the eye? But the paranormal has been around far longer than today's headlines. Long before horror movies filled our screens or we swapped ghost stories around campfires, people shared these tales as part of their everyday lives. Did you know that telling ghost stories used to be a Christmas tradition? On those cold, dark winter nights, families would gather around the fire, not just to open presents, but to tell tales of things that go bump in the night. One old tale speaks of a wandering spirit who roams a small village every Christmas Eve, searching for the child she lost many winters ago. Locals say that if you listen carefully, you can hear her weeping in the wind. Some call it a myth, but others have sworn that they heard these ghostly cries, echoing softly through the frosty air. These stories of the unknown aren't just fun, they connect us. They remind us the world still holds its secrets. And isn't that what makes life exciting? We're here to explore those secrets, whether they take the form of a friendly ghost peeking around the corner or the flash of strange lights in the sky. Your story might be full-on haunted house or just unexplained flicker of light. But here, it all matters. This space is for everyone, from the skeptics to the true believers, from the big dramatic stories to the small, unsettling moments that leave us with more questions than answers. Your experience doesn't need to be profound or documented. It just needs to be yours. After all, sometimes it's the quietest moments that leave the biggest impressions. You might have passed a dark alley and seen a shadow dart out of the corner of your eye. Or maybe you've had one of those dreams that feels so real, you're convinced you brought something back with you. We've all had that moment, that fleeting chill, that strange sense of déjà vu, that question that lingers. Did that just happen? So whether you've seen a full-on apparition or you're just curious about what else might be out there, we invite you to share your story with us here at Eerie Echoes with Ms. B. We're all about community, welcoming, fun. You don't have to have all the answers to join in. You just have to be curious. Whether you're a ghost hunter, a UFO watcher, or just someone who loves a good story, this space is for you. So come on. Bring your stories, your questions, your chills, and your thrills, because here we believe that unknown is a little more fun when shared. Together, we'll explore the strange, the unexplained, and the things that go bump in the night with a smile. And remember, you're never truly alone in the dark, so share your story if you dare. Welcome to Eerie Echoes with Miss B, where every experience is welcome and every encounter might just make you believe.
Okay, everybody, thank you for coming out to tonight's episode of Eerie Echoes with Miss B. I'm Miss B. We actually had a situation here today where the beginning of the month, I was at Otto's bookstore. I held an event there and met these amazing people who have agreed to come up to the theater tonight. They came in earlier today and they did their own paranormal investigation. So we have Adam Wilson and Sabrina Beakley, and then we have Elaine Decker. And Elaine Decker is a historian, and when I say she's a historian, she does genealogy of buildings and spaces. So she does the whole research of the area around the building, the history of the place, and she says she's not a paranormal investigator, but through what she does, she finds lots of instances that will help explain why things might bump or sound weird in the house at night. So she's joined as part of the team as well. So I would like for you guys to give a big, warm, Eerie Echoes round of applause to Elaine, Adam, and Sabrina, please. Elaine, would you like to come up and share your story of what you found about the Rialto Theatre?
Well, the Rialto Theatre has a fantastic history on their website, and it's pretty thorough. And my background is mostly like Cumming County, so I learned a lot on the website. And this theater is so amazing because one of the biggest mysteries I found was, how did they fit 300 seats in here? It's only
154.
154 right now. So I started digging through the architecture. The front of the building is completely different than it was back then. And I think that might be the key. I think this theater went further back, at least on the left and right. I don't know, because I didn't find any maps because, unfortunately, this county, I am not versed in where to find these things, and I have a huge collection of Lycoming County. I wish this theater was in Lycoming County because it fascinates me. And I got to play with their equipment, and I can't wait to hear their stories. But it was a church, and before that it was a theater, and now it's a theater again. And I love theaters, and I do think theaters are haunted, even though that's not my expertise.
So is there anything in particular you found at this theater that kind of struck out as a story that you might want to share?
I found a lady under the table, which I thought was a child. They let me play with their equipment, and I was fascinated with the upstairs because the upstairs seems to have undergone a different renovation than where we are right now, and I'm not sure exactly what that is, why that is, but it feels different. I mean, it's in architectural terms, it just feels different. This area, I think, was renovated very well, and the front of the place was renovated very well. And I think a lot of people that didn't know the history would think this is really the original theater, where it really probably isn't, because the church probably took a lot away, I'm guessing. But upstairs is definitely different. I don't know what the renovations were exactly, but I think they might have been different. So that's where I played with their equipment, and we didn't give the story of the person
Under the table?
under the table I thought was a child.
Now, when you came in, you said something about a murder mystery?
That's a house in Lycoming County. I wanted to share that story with you.
Okay.
So, like I said, for a living, I do houses. I research houses. Clients hire me, and I tell them everything about their house. So I learn everything about the people that are in the house. And I find out who died there, who was born there, weddings, showers, everything that happens. And sometimes find out who was murdered there. And that's what happened to this house. And I was starting with the story that somebody was murdered in this house. And so it was an unsolved murder. Nobody knew who did it. It happened in 1909. And I always said, if you want to know about the people who live in the house, then research the house, because the house always talks to me. So that's what I did. I researched the house. And the story is that these two people had just gotten married and had moved in with his uncle. And his uncle was a detective for the railroad. And back in 1909, that was equivalent to being a federal marshal or FBI. They were way higher than the local police. So this guy had a lot of pull. Nobody would think to murder his nephew, I didn't think. So, but that's what happened. The uncle and the aunt decided to leave the newlywed alone and went to Coven Station for a fishing trip. And that night, they were murdered. They were killed. And you'll see the difference. Some people will call it a murder. They'll say they were just killed, and in the end, you'll see why. And the next morning, they were found. And they were found, and it was one of those locked room mysteries. They were found in the bedroom. He was in his pajamas. She was naked. And all the doors were locked. All the windows were closed. And there were no weapons. There was no poison. There was no reason these two should be dead, except there they were, dead. Two perfectly healthy 20-year-olds dead. And that was the end of the story. They never found out what had happened. They guessed maybe a heart attack, which I did not think would have happened to two 20-year-olds, much less one. So I researched the house. And it turns out that Mr. Byrne, who was the owner of the house, Mr. and Mrs. Monroe were the two murdered people. He died in 1911. He died in Eerie, had nothing to do with the story except Mrs. Byrne had taken boarders at that point. The income had stopped. And that's when 4 more victims appeared in the house. None of them had died, but they had come close, very close. They were all in the same room where they found the bodies. They found the bodies in the bedroom, but they were pretty much killed, and they wandered into the bedroom. They were killed in the bathroom. And all of the 4 victims, all of them felt that somebody hit them in the back of the head, that somebody had punched them, that they had physical contact with something, but there was nobody there. And they did not make it to the bedroom, but they were found by Mrs. Byrne, who called for a doctor and resuscitated them. One guy almost didn't make it. It took him forever to be resuscitated. And when he wasn't right for days. So now I knew that there were more victims. And I would not have known that had I not researched the house. And so I worked with the state police and the coroner's office of today. And I went with my theory of exactly what had happened. Because I researched the house, I knew what had happened right before and during each incident in detail. And one common thing was that there was a meal prepared before every time it happened. And talking to the state police and talking to the coroner's office and going through medical books and really studying this, I found out that the chimney had been leaking. And it had leaked carbon monoxide into the bathroom.
Oh.
The house murdered them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was, at that time, not heard of that carbon monoxide could be in the house. They knew it could kill, but they didn't think that it could happen in a house. It was something that happened to minors. So they never even looked in that direction. And so the house it did murder 2 people, and it tried to kill 4 others. And Mrs. Bernadette, not knowing, never finding out what had happened, but figured her bathroom was evil, she gutted the whole thing and redid everything in the bathroom, which closed up the hole, which the carbon monoxide was leaking out of. So she inadvertently did solve the problem. But one of the things that had happened was Mrs. Burns lived there forever, and she kept being subjected to this carbon monoxide for a long time before she got this fixed. And it turns out that you can build an immunity to such a thing. You can build a tolerance for carbon monoxide. So that's what she was doing. She was building a tolerance to this, which is why it never killed her. The other thing it does is it leaves you in a very high risk group for stroke. And that is exactly what happened. And I have to look at my dates here. And in 1943, at age 79 years old, she died of a stroke. And we now know it was most likely the carbon monoxide. So the house did have one more victim. It did actually kill 3 people. The house has been since torn down, and it is now a parking lot. And it gives me the creeps whenever I walk through the parking lot before I knew what had happened. And it always gives everybody the creeps. Nobody knew why. So that's why I bring it up at this event, because I would like Adam to come and investigate it and see if the ghosts of Mr. and Mrs. Monroe haunt that parking lot, looking for why they died, because they died not knowing why it happened either. And if you stay tuned to this podcast, I do believe that there will be updates and we can keep you informed on what we find.
One, thank you so much, because you do this for the show, right?
I actually did the research for an historical society meeting.
Okay.
I did not mention that I thought their parking lot was haunted, because it turns out it's in the parking lot of the historical society that all of this happened, and I revealed it there.
So may I ask where the parking lot is located?
It's located on Millionaires Row in Williamsport,
Okay.
Across from the police station.
Thank you so much for researching all that for us and coming up and sharing the story. And yes, we will definitely keep everybody posted as to what we find when they do the investigation. Thank you, Adam and Sabrina, both of you, for saying that you would participate in this, because this is exciting and it's going to carry things on. And thank you. So yes, we do love ghost stories, and yes, we do love UFO things, but we're very fascinated with the history around things. That's a big focus of what we do. And lots of times people get stuck in just the story. So if you're a history buff, you can do stuff like Colleen does. And you can actually participate in the paranormal stuff as well, through the actual historical markings of buildings and spaces and things like that. So that's one of the main reasons I want to make sure you were here, is because people are like, oh, I don't believe in it, or I've never had an experience, but you love history. So how about we use your history knowledge and see what we can find? So thank you for coming.
Sometimes you find ghosts studying her history, and sometimes you find history's waiting for ghosts. So it works both ways. And you kind of have to have both in order to understand why things are happening the way they are. Especially if you want to know who these people are that you're talking to or that you see. It's really, really amazing that this building clearly had a different shape at some point. Mm-hmm. So if you see an apparition walk through a wall, you kind of want to know why. Why did that happen? Well, maybe it wasn't a wall then. And that's the kind of stuff I like to find.
Right, exactly. And we're going to delve into that a little bit more here in a little bit. But does anybody have any questions for Elaine, like how she might have gotten into it, what she does? She's actually written a book from Lycoming County, which is called
Williamsport Past and Present.
It's an amazing book. You can pick it up at Otto's bookstore,
Amazon,
and it's just, it goes into a lot of detail of what she does as well. So, do you have any questions for Elaine? Hold on just a second.
I'd be interested to know where you find all of your information. Do you, I'm sure you go online, and do you study at libraries and things like that? Maybe things that people have kept, like diaries and things that were in a family and passed down. That sounds interesting to me.
It is very interesting, and yes to all of that. I am the vice president of the Lycoming County Genealogical Society, and we have a huge history library. And then we do have the diaries, and we do have old articles. The article about Mr. and Mrs. Monroe was in a scrapbook that just said, couple killed in 1909, never found out why. That's what sparked that. So the library definitely, J.J. Brown Library is about to donate their historical things to the Genealogical Society, so there's a whole fresh supply coming. I have collected over the last 15 years historical documents, maps, photographs, information such as that I use for Lycoming County. And I also do go online. We have a fantastic register and recorder office, and all of their records, their deeds are all online to be used by anybody, which is huge. So the first thing I do when I research a house is I use the deeds and then everything after that. Our library has put all of the Lycoming County newspapers online for research. So that has helped enormously. So yeah, I use everything at my disposal. And like I said, it took 15 years to get enough information that I felt comfortable saying, I can learn every single thing I need to know about that house. I can learn it, I can dig it up, I can find it. And that's when I opened my company and said I would do that for residents of Lycoming County. I'm not sure I have the energy to do that for another county. It took a long time and a lot of effort, and I had a lot of favors. And luckily, we just have a very strong historical community, and we have a very strong genealogical society and a museum. The Historical Society archives, I use those too. They're open to the public through appointment. So, yeah, all of that.
And if you're interested in something like that around Bradford County, the Bradford County Historical Society down in Toowoomba has some amazing resources that you can utilize and look into and stuff. The director there is Matt Carl. And he's just absolutely phenomenal. He actually does a lot with the Leroy Museum and does a lot with Berkeley Cemetery and things like that. So he'd be a good resource to tap into, too, if anybody wants to go digging around to see what he can find.
And I love museum here is cute. It really, people don't understand that the newspaper articles that are online that everybody has saved don't have pictures. The pictures are all blurry. They're all blacked out because when they put them on microfilm, they eliminated the pictures, and then microfilm is what got digitally enhanced. There are two huge binders back there of newspaper clippings, and they may be the only ones in existence because once they're microfilmed, they throw them away. So that, don't discard all of your little areas, your churches, your theaters that are proud of their history. They have a collection, and that's what I do, go into places like that, because it's a shame that we've lost a lot of photographs. He has a photograph over there of Mr. and Mrs. Monroe that died, if you'd like to see it. The other reason I have it is somebody cut it out and it was in the Genealogical Society. It does not exist anywhere else, except here now, and on this podcast. So it's everywhere.
So thank you, Elaine.
Thank you for
Really
having me.
appreciate it.
Talking about.
Thank you, thank you. All right, so now, as I said earlier, we had some people come in and they did their own paranormal investigation of the Rialto Theater, and that is Adam Wilson and Sabrina Beakley. They were here with some of their equipment, which they can talk about and as to what the equipment does, what they were using it for, and they definitely had some interesting things going on while we were here. So, Adam and Sabrina, come on up. On 10/20/2024 at 8:08 p.m., Adam had a situation and a prediction. So he wrote it down, he sealed it, he posted it on social media so that everybody could see that it had been sealed, and then he gave it to me when he arrived here. So let's open this up, and the winner is... All right. It's dated October 19th, 2024 to 2:34 p.m. There are two entities in the Rialto Theater, a woman, middle-aged with brown hair, somewhat between 1910 and 1950. Then there is a childlike entity that plays with the lights and equipment. It might be what's happening with our internet. Maybe the popcorn machine has either turned on or been opened at some point in time. Upstairs, halls, or what were deep maroon color, were deep maroon color, yep. 3 doors upstairs, 2 on the right and 1 on the left. Was there a fire in the theater or on the property, perhaps close to the theater? Heard screams around the theater and strange drums, perhaps Native Americans. Child entity could be from that time frame. Woman died somewhere close to the theater, a car accident. There's a basement and there have been disturbances down there, lights flickering and turning back on after they've been turned on. Turning back on after they've been turned off. Child entity, perhaps maybe a third entity. Something with brass. And this was printed on October 20th, 2024 at 8:09 p.m. So, do you want to talk about the conversation you had when you got here in the theater?
All right, so when I arrived at the theater, I talked to Ivy. I can't see her. Is she out there? Or she's still?
She's there.
Oh, she is? She's gone. So when I got here, I had more visions throughout the week. I'm like, this girl, she's being targeted, in a sense. In a sense
Bring the
of,
mic up a little bit closer.
in a sense of going, hey, I'm right here. And her going, there's nobody here. The first thing I said to her was, tell me about the popcorn machine. And she kind of looked at me like, it makes popcorn. And I'm like, well, I hope so. But she said, when it wants to. And she started talking about the popcorn machine breaking, correct?
Yep.
So we went into the little historical museum over here, and we started looking for different stuff. Diego actually has some of the videos. Nothing came up on my REM pod, which was really kind of saddening for me because that's my favorite tool. I love taking that thing everywhere. I have it on in my living room 20 hours a day while I'm awake. And spirits pass through all the time. So we used some spirit balls, and those were lighting up, which kind of led me to believe about this child entity. It wasn't until later when I looked at the photograph out there, where it showed 2 little people standing between one woman. And that kind of made me think, maybe it's not a child, maybe it's just a very short adult. So that's kind of the way we were leaning. And then I said to Ivy, I said, well, tell me about what goes on out here in the theater. There's something that's going on. So we came out, and she told me that she'd been down right here, where we're at, saying, theater's empty, but she turns around to the guy. I said, don't tell me about the guy. I said, he's in a suit. I said, he has a hat, he smokes a cigarette. I said, he stands up, brushes his shoulders off, puts his hat back on, walks out and disappears. And she said, yeah. So we went through, we started looking up stuff with Miss B up here. And we found out
Harry Davenport.
Harry Davenport. He was an actor that was born in Canton.
Philly.
Yeah.
He was Philly, but he liked to come up to Canton.
Yeah, so he would come up to Canton and actually had a day dedicated to him. We looked at the picture. I said, it's going to be a guy in a suit, handlebar mustache. Nailed it. It was at that point we were standing in the back of the theater back here, and I heard a voice in my ear saying, look up. So I looked up at the murals over here, and there they are, right in the back corner there. It was pretty rock solid evidence for us, I think. You know, and the energy level between the upstairs and the downstairs are totally different. The upstairs level is a little bit more pressing, and I think it's because of the ultra building. That's about it for me. So what do you got?
Well, when I got here, this is my first time being here. So I didn't even know Canton had a theater, guys. So when I came in, Adam here was doing his investigation on his own in the room when he first walked in. And I did see the lights to his walls were lighting up. There was activity, and then I walked into the room and felt it. So that's what I did. So anyway, yes, I walked through, I took it upon myself to walk through the theater. I like to work alone, not with another psychic. And I kept coming down on the summer half and coming down, and I'd stop over here. And then I was like, no, there's something wrong here. The energy just stops. And then I'm walking around the other way, and I'm coming down, and I'm doing the same thing. And then I'm where his camera is, and I'm like, looking. I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. I had rows, and they're turning in and walking into the rows. And this right here is single. This does not look the way it looked. And then as I was walking back up, I had voice lady said to Miss B, you know, it's doing something else. It's different. I was seeing a group of people coming in. They were very dressed up, but the times were different. I also picked up on a gentleman in here. He's very tall, dark hair. I believe to be the same man that Adam has picked up. I had went upstairs, and instantly there's a woman up there, and then there's a taller woman up there, and she's more into like, I don't know, like this, I want to say 30 type thing, and she kind of was like looking downstairs and like turning her head fast. Sorry, I keep coming going from the mic. Like. It's hard to explain because my visions go really fast. It's like seeing a film being pulled real fast in front of me, and I got to put that together. But she's like turning away, like to go, like she's busy. That's what I got. I'm busy. When I walked in, very, very strong. Where up there, or the room that has the projector.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. But it's smaller now. And I think he was a man. But he's a short man. There is another female there too, and she's a short woman. And this is where we're going to go into the story with Elaine. Elaine and I have my granddaughter here. So they disappeared upstairs. I gave them what is called the SP1. It's a box that you can talk directly back and forth to believed to be intelligent beings back and forth. I
also have what,
See, it's not,
sorry. I also have what's called a Wonder Box here, Steve Puff. I also use his apps. You can also hook the SP7, or SP1, excuse me, I don't know why I said 7. SP1 to it.
Yeah, SP1.
Yeah.
SP1.
Anyway, they took SP1 upstairs, and,
I have an SLS that you have.
oh, yes, you have, yeah, the SOS. And, you would have to explain what that was doing. However, they were up there and, you know, the box was going off and the apps were going off and, basically it was responding intelligently to Elaine and just went up there. It was a female, was when I was up there. I caught the female and she kept hiding. Elaine actually has an app that she uses, and it kind of shows where it was actually coming over and touching her, didn't it, and then falling back under the table. And then she was like kind of following it around, and then we kind of move around to kind of, you know, get the little lady to talk to us. And but she said a couple things to you guys. And then at the end, you were saying if you want us to leave, you know, goodbye. And there was a gentleman with a very deep voice came across, said, so long. He wanted us to go, so long. So, yeah.
So, do you guys want to share a little bit about what you guys experienced upstairs?
Each time.
Okay. Okay.
The SLS is, explain yourself.
So,
I didn't see it, so I can't explain it.
I wasn't here. I was like,
It's,
I was at that time. Yeah, so it is a sensitive light camera, and anybody here seen Lord of the Rings? Gone. It was filmed on the SLS camera. So what it does is it picks up on the movement that the naked eye can't see. And it's a very handy tool in the field. For people that Sabrina and I, we know when there's spirits around. Other people don't. That's why I use my equipment. The SLS camera will actually map out people. I've seen it. I did an investigation back in July. I was over in a house right on my street, and I had my REM pod and my spirit box, and I had my millimeter. And they were all there. They were all going off. I had the SLS camera going as well. And you could see the figure walking over and touching it and then disappearing. And I've seen them where they will, did one investigation back in May. We had the SLS camera running, and you could actually see this entity crawl up the wall and went into the mirror and vanished. It was a bad one. We had to go back to that house a couple times, continue doing cleansing methods on it and stuff. But in the end, you know all of that. So I'll give it back to Emily.
I just want to state from what I have felt, the spirits here are not bad. They're actually kind of like gentle people in life, because you are in life and death. And I don't think they're just here. They're just here. This is what they did. I think they're attached to the building itself. You know, and like I said, I seen groups of people coming in too. So I'm not quite sure what all that was, but there was a group of people, and I'm thinking it was the church.
Yeah.
I feel like that was more what I was seeing, because it wasn't a theater. They were coming, and I was seeing them coming in this way.
Right.
You know, so.
Very cool.
So when we went upstairs, I was using the SLS camera because it's my favorite toy, and I could see a stick figure under the table, and she was standing right in front of the table, so it was behind her. So I thought, well, I want to make sure it's not picking up a table leg and saying it's a person. That can happen. So I went around to the side. No, it wasn't picking up the table leg. It was still there. And this went on for quite a while. And so I would go around one side of the table and it would hide behind some crates that were there around the other side. So I just stepped back, and I think that was when you came in, or right before, and we put the equipment right by the table. Not my camera, but those things that made noises. And spirit box, thank you. And my SLS camera caught a smaller person laying on the floor, reaching out, and you could see the hand, at which point, every time that my SLS camera would do that, the thing would talk. It would answer our questions.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. And then at one point, I don't remember the question we asked, but the answer was duh.
Oh, yeah, it's on her duh.
And I said, duh.
And then the female laughed.
Because I said, couldn't have been a mouse. And the female started laughing over this spirit box that is supposed to be giving words, and it started laughing, and then we all started laughing. So that was my experience. I am not an investigator. I was just trying to find these things totally wrong.
Here's the other thing that she had gotten. She's not talking about it. Yes. With this, understand, we have spirits around us all the time. Good, bad. We have them around us. With that, we're obviously trying to contact whatever's in here. In that process, she actually got names of relatives back. You tell that, that's
We
your...
were saying, can you tell us who you are? Over and over, and no names were coming out. And finally, Helen came out, and I said, oh, Helen, well, my name is Elaine. I was named after my grandmother, whose name was Helen. At which point she said, I think you might have been named after the person who just said Helen. So she believes that might have been my grandmother. It was just because we were calling out spirits, maybe, or it could have been a coincidence, and there's a Helen that's around here. I don't know. But I wonder if it was named after my grandmother. All three of us heard it saying Helen that time. It was saying a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
The first thing, as soon as I woke up, I was by myself, and I said, okay, I'm up here. Do you spend any time up here? You feel kind of weird talking about yourself. And it came right out of the box, really loud, of course. I'm like, okay. And normally that would scare me, but I don't think anything here is scary. I usually get really freaked out, even just watching stuff.
I think it's easier with the lights on.
Well, there is that. Yeah, I went to this all the time. And we had that conversation. These lights stay on. No, we're not.
The dark is fun. I mean, come on.
Obviously, there are still people here at the theater who, like, we can see some of the video and stuff that was shot earlier, that have attached themselves here to the theater. And for no ill will at all, correct?
No, there's no real, yeah, they're
More protective?
yes, they're here because, I feel like they're here because this is their job, and they actually liked it. They actually cared about it.
Which I agree.
Yes, and I think they're still here because of that. The most active part of this theater, I believe, to be upstairs. I mean, that's where I pick up, the most active. But it's all over because they pass through the whole building. But, yeah, definitely.
So, any last thoughts on what?
No, I think, I think Sabrina's right in that this is something that they love, and spirits aren't bound normally to the place where they die. They can come back.
Yeah,
They
they choose upstairs. They're choosing to be there.
Yeah. So here, just in the case of Ivy seeing the guy back there, sitting back there, he's coming here. I mean, they had a day dedicated to him. His pictures.
I see that gentleman coming in, not living like stuck here.
Right.
He's coming in.
He comes in and watches the movie, hangs out with you guys, and then leaves. Doesn't have to pay admission fee either.
Yeah, it's cheap.
So, and it's funny because we do have some people here who have lifelong ties to the theater. And it sounds very similar to what those people were like when they worked here, doesn't it?
It does sound like.
So you're the one who's got the lifelong tie here, you and your wife.
My wife, yeah, her aunt, my wife's aunt worked here from 29 to 74. She owned it
Okay.
and bought it from the Crawfords that were the ones that built it. And her husband was a tall guy, looked skeletal because he suffered World War I gas, French thing. So he looked really scary to us as youth. He behaved because of him. But I can see her get around and dashing off because she's always in a hustle. And
Yes, that's how I've seen her. She was like a,
yeah, that's in yeah, that's in
I'm busy.
Sure.
yeah, that's how I. I have a question for him. What was, I can yell, because you're going to have to run back. Here. Oh, go ahead. I was just observing both of these guys. They both felt something odd in the, what is now a museum room. What was that in original, do you know?
Yeah, that was part of the lobby. The ticket booth got moved forward and is now, or got moved forward, it was back, and it was a much bigger lobby. It was a door there that went into a separate room. I really don't remember when I was a kid, just the ticket, the candy sheet in there. I don't remember exactly what was in that area. But this theater was running about 4 feet on both sides, or width, yeah. And when they remodeled in '94, prior to that, they had 3 sets of seats, the center and 2 side groups that were 6 seats outside and 50 in the center, whatever. It had the 300 or close to that when we were kids. And there, the smaller seats, but wooden seats back in the day.
Why, do you remember why they narrowed it?
It was just a matter of insulating, wiring, and being able to do stuff to it. If you see the outside of this building, it's the old tile, so you really can't do much with that other than build a new wall on the inside of it, so that you can do all the things you need to do in a modern building. Yeah. So Aunt Lou, her husband, and my wife was scared. She grew up as a kid forever. We're all old, so it's all down now.
And your wife's father was actually the projectionist here,
He
wasn't
was
he?
a shorter guy.
He was a short guy.
He worked in the projection room for
40-some years, wasn't it?
started back days back when it was carbon arc, and that's why it's an asbestos room. That still exists about the same as it was for the projector sets.
His energy is strong there.
So they could be tuned with fire. That's like a continuous fire that's building in the carbon arc. That's just a flame, Now, they may have fire in there sometimes. I don't really know, but yeah, he lived in there. Good to know.
Right. Because you stopped. Remember, you stopped in front of that room. You said you felt somebody else. Yeah, I did. But when I first walk in, I'm being told where the energy is the strongest. That's why you see me walk, stop, turn around. Oops. Sorry.
There you go.
There you go. Sorry. So I like this, when I first come in to start reading, I'm pulled to the energies. And that's when I start seeing, like I said, it looks like a film going really super fast. And then it's just like piecing it together. I get it different ways too. I mean, I can hear them in live time, but here they have not done that. So they have not spoken out. And, I don't know, did you get the speaking other than the equipment? But, yeah.
So, one, thank you, because I've always felt like there was something here. And there's some people that have worked here that are in the audience as well that, what do you guys think? You were the manager here for a while too, so.
I know, I couldn't get out of here fast enough. Like, they're scared of the news. I turn off all the lights. Nobody was here. It just felt like somebody was watching me.
Watching you?
And I couldn't get out of that front door fast. Yeah.
Just scary movies, or
It would not, scary movies especially, but in general, there's times I would be by myself, finishing up for the night, and you would just feel like somebody's watching you.
any experiences you had?
I would say there's been several times when I've been on stage during different events, doing announcements or whatever, and you swear you see someone up there. Usually in the room off to the side of the projection room.
Yeah, that little.
That little alcove there. Many times, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's the lighting, it hit me in the face. There was one time that we were here previewing a movie, and she swears she saw somebody standing in the lobby. Took off running. I didn't see anything. I was watching whatever movie we were previewing. Took off running to the front, checking the doors, went upstairs, swore saw somebody.
What did the person look like?
It was just like a shadow. The door here on the right was opened up, and it was just a very clear as can be shadow move across.
This door being open, you could see a shadow just go right across with what was the blue light of the pencil machine on the wall. And like I said, I ran up there, and there was nobody there. None of the doors were open. Checked every crevice to find, and I swear I've seen somebody there.
So yeah, it's really cool that places hold and people hold places there. I'm going to ask you some different questions that have absolutely nothing to do with the investigation, but just so people can kind of get a better sense of who you are and how you guys got involved in things, and maybe ask you some questions that way. So, do you want to talk about how you got involved in doing what you're doing now? Because you actually are one of the co-founders of Ghost Quest, correct? Which is a paranormal investigation team from Williamsport, Pennsylvania.
Correct. We have multiple teammates spread out between Pennsylvania and Maryland. We have two down in Maryland, Delaware area. Really good psychic mediums. They kind of pick up stuff down there, but the main team is up here in Williamsport. The furthest we've traveled is close to Elmira, New York, to do a demonic haunting of 18 years. We were up there. It was actually the land that was haunted, not the house. The house was built on some ancient land. And that was our first big quest. If you would have asked me 30 years ago, what are you going to do when you're 40? Paranormal investigator would not be the answer. I would have been like, hell no. Just keep me away from all that stuff. I was born with it. And it's the way that my parents explained it to me was there's people who can draw, people who can sing, people who can talk to the dead. And I'm one of those people who can't sing or draw. So I got the other short straw. It was something that I looked at my entire life as a curse. It wasn't something that I wanted to flaunt. I didn't want to say, oh, look at me, I can talk to dead people. I'm like, nope, I'm just going to stay away with that. I don't see that. So most of my life has been a lifetime of hauntings. Actually, I have a book that's hopefully coming out sometime next year called My Paranormal Odyssey, and it literally tracks almost the important ones. 15 of the most horrific and tender-hearted stories of my paranormal life. So, I mean, for me, it was just kind of one of those things. It's don't ask, don't tell. Don't talk about it, stay away from it. It's not something good.
So then, what got you involved in it? What made you finally decide that, you know what, I'm going to stop that and I'm just
Can't escape it. So the one thing that really got me going was back in April. It was, I think, April 12th. And I was driving up in Mansfield for my daytime job. And something just kind of clicked in my brain that I had to call home and talk to my parents and everything to see if everything was okay. And they said, yeah, everything's fine, but our friend Debbie is going through a very hard time. They're like, I'm getting told that Debbie's sister Patty had passed away a year prior. And now they're going to sell the house. And they wanted to make sure Penny's soul wasn't going to be trapped in the house. And that was kind of like the start. And then something kind of clicked in my brain, and I'm like, wait a second. I know these people, don't I? And my mom's like, yeah. She's like, you know that? And she goes, you saw Sherry and John before? Well, and I said, okay. I said, well, I need to meet with them. And I'm being asked why. And the answer was, I don't know. Something's going on. I don't know. So we ended up meeting with them. It was a week, like April 10th, we met. Might have been a little bit after April 10th. And I went over, talked to Debbie, and told her, like, well, Patty's soul's not found in this house. She's going to come with you. And one of the big things that I said was, you guys are thick as thieves, which was their saying growing up. I did not know that. It just came to me. And she kind of was like, oh, thank you. She hugged me, she cried. And I'm like, okay, now on to the not so pleasant part. You talk to your family, or, your daughter, your son-in-law, and their kids. And I started finding out things about these guys, that they were haunted for 18 years. Just the demonic haunting, people getting bit, people getting scratched, violent nightmares. They would see this demonic entity and it would crawl up the wall, disappear into the ceiling. The oldest daughter, she had a terrible recurring nightmare. Kermit the Frog, stuffed animal, not letting her out of the basement and everything. So I went and I talked to my partner, Zach, and we had been doing small things, but nothing on this scale. So I said to him, listen, this is bad. And he said, yeah, it's bad. He goes, but I got my own stuff going on. He was talking about an entity that he was dealing with. And we call them the hollow ones. And they're entities that look just like you and I, except there's no eyes. It's just black, empty voids and black blood. And I was like, well, I'm glad you said that, because Dean, who was the youngest, I said, Dean has seen this hollow one. And I explained what Dean saw to Zach, and Zach was like, that's the exact same one that I've seen. So we knew that this was a case of it too. Our big fear was possession, because that's where we were going. This poor woman, Sherry, she probably weighed 80 pounds soaking wet. She wasn't eating anything she ate. She threw up. She wasn't sleeping. Every time she slept, she had violent, terrible nightmares of killing her own children, and her children were having violent, terrible nightmares of killing her. So it was one of those things that were like, okay, we need to get up there. We need to get up there now. When they were in Williamsport talking to us, they were fine. They were like, hey, yeah, that's great. They got home, and Sherry's like, no, screw this. This thing was here before Adam. Adam's not coming to get rid of it. And that was the exact mindset she had. I didn't hear from her for 2 days.
So with that situation, do you think that was the entity possessing her to get you away?
Absolutely. So it's infestation, and then obsession, and then possession. Right. Infestation is you hear all the voices, this amount of voices you hear, and then the obsession is all you can think about, and then possession. And it's not like The Exorcist, but in the case of Amityville Horror, the Ronnie DeFeo, he was persuaded by the devil to kill his entire family with a shotgun. Killed his brother, his sister, his 2 younger brothers, and his parents. All because the devil told him to do it. And that was my fear with Sherry. So we hounded her. You gotta listen. Finally, after her kids talked to her husband talked to her, and I didn't, but they were like, listen, you got to let this guy and his team come up. So they finally agreed. So the next week, we didn't have somebody like Elaine. Elaine wasn't, I didn't know who Elaine was at that point in time. So we're doing all the research ourselves. I'm at work. I go on a computer, putting orders in for my customers, and on my cell phone, I'm looking up a bunch of stuff, and demonic hauntings, the lane, what's up there, what am I looking for? So then, after talking to everybody, I still felt like I was missing that final piece of that puzzle. So, and the oldest daughter, Annabelle, she held that final piece. And she was telling me that her and her sister, Nora, had gone outside one time in the woods and got lost. Couldn't find their way out for hours. And they finally came upon this tree, and they said this tree just looked evil. It didn't look right. It had giant briars growing up around it. It was just evil. And then they finally found their way out, and it was right there. Which was really interesting because Zach and I both had visions of trees and forests and bloody tendrils, roots coming down from the sky, which is very weird. And when I was talking to Annabelle, I had told her, I said, well, I'm trying to reach out on this thing on a psychic level. And I said, it's not listening to me. Well, my Apple Watch then said in a very non-Siri-like tone, I can hear you. And the truck was cold. I mean, this is in April, and yeah, I had the heat on, but I could see my breath cold, and my watch doesn't say that. And when I got home that night, I had a very long scratch in the center of my chest, so I knew that I had been marked by this demon. So the rest of the week, we just kind of started looking for stuff. And we found, with Google Earth, we looked up their property, and around the property, you could actually see that this part of the forest was dead. And there was nothing growing there. So we knew that's where we had to go. And when we went into the house, it was the same cold. And they had a heater on, a pellet stove on. They all had jackets and hoodies, and everybody's shivering and freezing. And I'm like, well, this is really cold, but it's normal and haunting. So we made our way through the house. Our equipment started acting up funny. And finally, we're like, are we going to go to the woods? Well, we got lost in the woods and could not find our way out at all. And we were back there for almost an hour, maybe more. And we couldn't find our way out until we finally looked at the photo that we had on the phones of the Google Earth. And we're like, wait a minute, there's the house. And then we looked and we said, there's the tree. The tree kind of pushed us back. We felt very disoriented. Even though we knew the exit was right there, we still felt super disoriented. And we did a couple different rituals. For me, I practiced the Christian Catholicism portion of exorcisms and all that stuff. My partner, he practiced Druidism, Wiccanism, white witchcraft, stuff like that. Just so we're all very well versed. And I think that's what makes it important, because not every case is the same. I know in a couple of different cases over the United Kingdom where they had the jinns, they've actually brought in imams of the Islamic religion to help with the exorcism because it's something of that nature.
Lots of pack there.
Lots of
Lots and lots of
I have
information.
some questions.
What?
I have some questions.
Okay.
Oh, I'm all for questions.
So you just said something that was really interesting because of you said that you follow the Catholicism approach to this. Do you feel like, this is something that even Ms. B and I have been talking about as well, do you feel like it seems as though whatever these entities are, it feels as though for me that at some point the Vatican, the Catholic Church decided that they were going to hold on to whatever the knowledge was beforehand that allowed them to be kind of like the sequesters, so to speak, of that knowledge. And not to say that, obviously, that let's say it's demons, in the biblical sense or anything like that, but even like now we were just reading a book by Lua Elizondo, which is more UFO related and things like that. But they're talking about how even in the Pentagon, part of the research that they're doing is about, there's even a faction within the religious faction within the Pentagon that is focused on the religious aspects of what these aliens or whatever this is that it could be visiting our planet, what they actually are. So my question is it seeming like Catholicism itself
is kind of like the language of these things, or did the Vatican, just kind of like honed in on the right teachings and the right knowledge to be able to do the exorcism and things like that? Because they're definitely the ones that can handle most demonic possessions and things like that, except for jinns and things like that.
That's a really interesting question. So I think it's a yes on both ends. I think it's something that they've honed into and good at. But I also know that, like for me, I carry my family's patron saint in my pocket, Saint Michael the Archangel. And in the case of the Lucas farm with this demonic tree, we took Saint Benedict medallions and we buried them around because Saint Benedict is the patron saint of protection. But we've also done cases where farm animals that shouldn't be dying are dying. And I'm talking like horses. They're having their necks snapped by having their bridles catch along a nail, and their necks are just snapping like that. And with those kind of cases, we'll let you use St. Francis of Assisi, who is the patron, protector of all animals and stuff like that. So I think it goes hand in hand, because no matter, at least in this side of the world, no matter where you are, it's almost like these patron saints are known. You can go over to the Vatican, you can say, St. Michael the Archangel, they're going to know who you're talking about. You can go to Ireland and say St. Michael the Archangel, they're going to know. But I think it also has to do a lot with a person's religious perspective. In the cases of them bringing imams to help exorcise jinns. Now, the word jinn is, for a demon, but also over in the United Kingdom, Ireland, Scotland, another word for them are imps. And you'll hear this a lot. Oh, it's an imp, it's an imp. Imps and demons are pretty much the same thing. Imps are just smaller versions of demons that are going to grow up to be big bad demons, elementals, stuff like that. But I think it's what the person who's being affected is going to relate to.
So whatever religion or whatever holy structure they have is the one that is the prominent one.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So, in the case of somebody who's Islamic, okay, it's a jinn, you're going to call him an imam, he's going to do it, he's going to do his thing. And I've seen an imam do an exorcism before, and it is by far very pleasant, to say the very least, because it's not like what we've seen in the movies, it's not like the things that I've seen that I've partaken in. Holy water, they use holy water, but it's almost like for the imam, they're singing, they're chanting. Mm-hmm. So it's very pleasant. Yeah. It's a vibration, but it's also a little bit more pleasant, I feel. It's interesting to see how different religions handle possession, how they handle exorcisms, how they handle things in their own. Just on a side note, I have friends who believe in UFOs, I have friends who believe in ghosts, demons, stuff like that. And one of our friends is Islamic. Well, he always has to make sure that the toilet seat is down, it can't be up. And they asked him one day, why is it? And he goes, the gin didn't come. And a couple of my friends laughed at him like it was, ha ha ha. And I looked at him like, dude, you guys think aliens built the pyramid? Shut up. It showed some respect on that front. If that's his religious preference, then that's what we have to do. Be respectful of their religion. Whether I believe it or not, I know that demons, angels, they all exist. God and the devil are real. It just depends on which one that you want to put your faith in.
Does anybody have any questions for Adam? I do have one. Me, for you. Yes, I have another one. So, you said you've had this your whole life, and you've experienced it ever since you were little.
Sure.
What was the first time you realized that not everybody does this?
Well, it was that goes in kindergarten or first grade, I can't remember. But a museum with the Tabor Museum. I want to make sure I named it. Okay. It's called the Tabor Museum. We went on a field trip. And we're at this field trip, and we're going through, and there's a picture. It's a painting, and it's the stools there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a picture, and there's a stool there, and the picture is of a little girl. She was 2 years old. 2 years old, and she fell off the stool while her father was painting the picture, and she broke her neck. And people are really mean. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And our tour guide said to us, "Oh yeah, some rich lady said she was homely, and they felt this cold breath on the back of their necks." So my friends and I were 5, 6 years old. I don't know what the word homely means. We're like, "Oh, she's homely," you know. Like, why would you tell kids that?
Right.
And then she followed me home, like a little lost puppy. It was very terrifying.
So when you say she followed you home, what did she do?
She stood next to me like we were friends. I mean, she literally was right behind me on the bus, sitting behind me, got in the car, sitting in the back seat with me. And I looked at my mom and I was like, this ghost girl needs to go home. And she looked over and she goes, "Oh yeah, no, she does." And she talked to her and she left. I mean, it didn't take a while, but it was after that I went home. My dad and my mom sat down and they said, "Well, let's talk about something." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "Well, you know, some people could say, all that good stuff." But when you're 5 years old and your parents are telling you it's normal to see dead people in our family, I'm traumatized.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to know, because I don't think in our last conversation we had discussed how you actually had that first instance.
Oh no, I know there were ones prior to it, but like I don't have any recollection of it because I was little.
Right.
I was born in July, and I think it was Halloween that year, '84, that some weird stuff was going on, and this is just something that my family has
dealt
with since the 1800s.
Okay.
I have a second part to that story.
The ghost he's talking about is Melly. And what he didn't know when he was 5 years old was it's a very now common story in Tabor Museum because later things kept happening to that picture. So the haunting of Melly, unbeknownst to him, was something that they now have a postcard of that recently they are now explaining. The picture keeps falling off the wall, things keep happening with this. So he couldn't have known that then. And I just wanted to reinforce that this, if you go to the Tabor Museum, they now talk about the haunting of Nellie, but that wouldn't have been anything. I don't think they would have mentioned that back then. It was nothing that they really pushed. And it hadn't even happened really a whole lot then. It happened if you were 5, that was 35 years ago. So it happened after that, that painting just couldn't stay on the wall. They now have it, so it cannot fall off the wall. It fell off so many times. It broke so many frames. They said it was like her falling off the stool. But I just want to reinforce the fact that she really does want that museum.
Thank you. Thank you. Sabrina, do you want to tell a little bit about you, how you got to be here?
Well,
Mic close to your mouth, please. There we go. There we go.
Actually, I started in the paranormal. I can't. I was born with it. First time I ever seen a ghost, I lived on Mulberry Street, late 70s. I'm old, guys. Robert Insides wasn't even there. So I experienced a man. I was probably about 6, sitting in my mom's bed because I was a scaredy cat. And I was supposed to be going to bed. And I looked up, put my head up, and there was a man standing there. He was in a suit, a dark suit, dark hair, no eyes. And that's what scared me. He was as real as you and me of what I was seeing. And it scared the living out of me. That was the first thing, you know.
Right.
But I actually got into the paranormal because
my youngest sister was having problems paranormal about Carmel, Pennsylvania at the time. And then I ended up getting into it, trying to figure out, I guess, to find answers. That is the real reason I got into it.
Right.
I wanted to find answers not only for myself, to understand, because knowledge is power over these. So I ended up, me and my best friend at the time, we ended up on another team, and we ended up branching out and making our own team on Ghost Under Investigation of Central Pennsylvania. And we've been operating for about 12, 13 years. However, I had broken up the group. I am the owner of I prepare events. I do events. But anyway, we so me and Marie ended up, my co-founder, we ended up with this team, and then we stopped with the team because it became overwhelming. Because we were a teaching team.
So could you go into a little bit more detail about what that is?
A teaching team?
Yes.
Basically, we would take people, we wouldn't take them to homes or anything like that. We used the bunkers a lot.
Okay.
The bunkers, we had permission to be back there, so we used them a lot for the paranormal. We're learning how to use the equipment. As you all know, I'm psychic, so I let those people come in behind me and prove me wrong. Not to validate me, I want you to prove me wrong.
Right.
You know, so, and then, you know, the information, like, you know, all the what Lane does, we kind of got to do on our own and get as much information as we could possibly get on the houses and land, because we don't always have access to somebody like Lane.
Right.
So, anyway, as things went on, I ended up with a terrible, terrible haunting. So
You've written a book about it.
yes, I wrote a book. But before my haunting, we had a case about Carmel, Pennsylvania, a second case. And that one was there and left. The people we went to, they were like, it's gone, it's not happening anymore. Well, my new manager, she brought it home. And what she brought home, it was sexually attacking her. It didn't care if I was there or anybody was there. It was just terrible, terrible. Now, the reason why I could talk about her case is because it aired on Dead Files, 2013, December 13.
You guys are actually consultants on that show, weren't you?
I was, but they pulled me because obviously two psychics don't work out too
yes.
That's her show, not Sabrina's show.
Right.
But she's a wonderful psychic, and Steve is wonderful too. The crew's, you know.
So what was the name of the episode? So if they want to go back and see it on the Dead Files.
Do you remember what the...
It's on HBO Max. If you guys got the third season, fourth season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you put in Jody Hill, story of Lewisburg, PA, it'll come up. But she ended up being my manager, ended up becoming my snakes. So believe it or not, I have access to people in the field. I contacted Lorraine Warren. And then I kind of had to contact Bill B, Reverend Bill B, accepted. Demonologist, Melissa Leeper, and Reverend Jeff Leeper, and again, he's a reverend too, but he's not here. Heather's sister, Mike Stevenson.
So what would you guys say to anybody that's experiencing things like this, or is realizing all of a sudden that they have the gift or the curse or whatever you call it?
You're not alone. There's people out here that the hauntings happen to them. The psychic thing, honestly, I didn't know I was psychic. I just thought, I don't know how I know things. It used to get me in trouble as a teenager. So it actually occurred to me, my husband had passed away. I had spoke about it at the other event in 2016. He had suicide due to our haunting. But his sister in Williamsburg was murdered, and his niece in the 90s. And they oh, yeah. Oh, no, sorry. Oh, we got that out. Anyway, I'm so sorry. I'm revealing this in my book, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell you who I'm here. And I don't care what they think the book's for. Like up in county, I had brought in St. John. She was the first one that came in. And she kind of like, I think you have something. Well, we hardly met. So, some people can't read you unless you're like right on top of them. Sometimes they can. She kept saying to me over time, I think you got to get it. I think you got to get it. Anyway, some people that were on the case, officials, had brought in a whole nother psychic. And her name was Jackie. And they had brought her to my home. And she looked, she walked up on one porch and she looked straight at me. And she said, you know who I am, don't you? I said, yeah, you're psychic. She said, well, who told you? I said, I don't know, I just know. She goes, oh, you do know. I said, oh, no, I don't. Well, when she came in, she's like, can I read you? And it's really funny. And Jackie and Barrett, I'm going to validate you. She said I was going to write a book. Because I was actually going to write a book back then about the murders. Mm-hmm. And I didn't. She goes, what are you writing here? You're not going to finish this. You're not going to do this. And I'm like, yeah, no. She actually had told me, no, you have to get it, honey. Yeah, still scattered all day long. It was Chris Fleming. Psychic Chris Fleming. He's best known off the Psychic Kids. He's working with Coffee. He's the one that helped me bring in my death and bring it together to understand what was going on, what I was feeling, what I was getting, to slow it down, to understand it. So that's where I pretty much came today. I've been on some shows and things like that. And with my story, I just want to help people, let people know you're not crazy. Things go bump in the night. I had things flying off my wall at us.
So do you want to tell everybody the name of your book so they can find it and read about it?
Sure. My book is called Haunted Freedom. It is about a haunting that happened on Freedom Road in Williamsport. It has a lot of history to it, to the land. Native Americans, they lived on the land, and they were pushed back, killed, murdered. Daniel Hughes, he was a part of the Underground Railroad, and he, that had something to do with the haunting, to some of the beings we were coming in contact with. Not just myself, but other people that would stay or come. But you can find the book at Aldo's bookstore. You can find it on Amazon, and you can also find it on Barnes and Nobles. Sorry, Barnes and Nobles. It's terrible tonight. Sorry.
That's okay.
You can find it there, and if you want to find me, I'm on Facebook. You can find me at Weekly Snatch. Facebook.com, I believe. And
Paris Sabrina.
Yeah, I'm Paris Sabrina Weekly on there. And if you go up on X, I'm Paranormal 8 Sabrina Weekly. I'm an investor. AMC. Sorry. Bye, AMC. Thank you.
All right, so anybody who's going through this, like Sabrina, you're not alone. There's people out there. And I think in today's day and age and society we live in today, more people are more accepting of these things. Back in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, and even the early 90s, you didn't talk about this kind of stuff. You were crazy. There's no such thing as ghosts. Yeah, they want to lock you up. They want to do anything. But, you know, you're not alone. And that's the great thing. And, you know, I think that's, you know, my team, Ghost Quest, I co-founded it with my best friend, Zach. You know, we have psychics up here in the northern tier. We have some down in Maryland. We have our main team up here in Williamsport. And we go anywhere. As long as it's not like Florida, North Dakota. You know, we don't have to go on a plane.
As far as Georgia.
So, I mean, we have 2 cases in Maryland right now. The main team's going to be going down. The Maryland team's working on it. We're going to go down there. We're going to solve it, hopefully. I don't know. It's a possessed giraffe toy. It's kind of creepy. Not going to lie. It's kind of like Annabelle, but it's a giraffe. So, you know, but you guys can find us on Ghost Quest. You can find me, Adam Wilson, on Facebook, and then you can email us, ghostquest8495@gmail.com. If you guys are going through a haunting, though, we ask that you give us the bare bone minimum. I hear voices, and I see somebody saying it about the Crowded Theater. And then we're going to come in, we're going to be like, okay, here's the guy at the Crowded Theater, and Casper's going to be walking behind me, and I'm going to be like, no, it's over here. So just be very vague, but very almost semi-detailed. And especially if there's demonic stuff going on, I'm getting bit, I'm getting scratched, stuff like that. That's stuff that we need to know. So when we
But the general, like, layout of the house and things like that.
they'll give us into that. But like I said, you know, we like to come in on a blank slate because then whatever we're feeling is really the psychic feeling, and we're not going off of something that's been preordained, predestined by what you guys are telling us. So, but like I said, if it's a demonic vibe, please let us know. That way, when we do come in, we are prepared, we are protected, and we make sure that nobody in the house gets hurt and nobody in our team gets hurt as well.
So, does anyone have any questions for either Sabrina or Adam as any of the things they've done, they've experienced?
I have a question. I would be interested to know about objects that might be possessed. And I didn't really think anything about that, but I was reading one time that if you go thrifting, if you buy things, bring them into your home, be very careful. And I love to thrift. And so but is that really true? I mean, can I bring something home with me?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm not even a psychic, and I will say yes because I had an instance with something like that. Yeah.
I had one client who bought a chair. She bought the chair home, she bought the owner of the chair home. It was quite interesting. Now, the owner of the chair was very nice, and I told her, I said, no more buying stuff at thrift stores. So she sent a picture to her daughter. Her daughter looked at it, sent it to me, and she's like, my mom wants to buy this. And I said, no, absolutely not. She was also a psychic. I said, please send me your name. I'm saying, and she goes, oh, yeah. She goes, yeah, I see the evil face in the moon. And she texted her mom back and said, don't buy it, or I'll disown you. So she didn't buy it. But yes, that's very, very true. A case that I had over the summer, I had possessed jewelry. As odd as it sounds, it was possessed jewelry. And this thing was setting off all our equipment. I mean, it was setting off our REM pod. And the REM pod generates a magnetic field. And only the right magnetic field does eventually go off. And this thing was setting off what they call jewelry just next to it. So it was like, okay, let's bless it. Let's take it. And like, you're not connected to this jewelry, are you? Like, you're really not going to be sad if it's not here. And my clients are like, no, it's okay. So I took the jewelry and I put it in a very safe place. Somewhere where nobody's going to be able to get to it. Kids, especially. That's the big thing. You know, you don't want them finding something, you don't want to throw it away. And then a kid goes dumpster diving, finds this, and then brings this identity into the house.
So when you're talking about the 13 now, you can pretty much, I mean, you can pick up on bad things. We have people here that thrift all the time, and when you pick something up, you either know that you like it, or you don't. And if you have to ask the question, should I bring this home, what do you think the answer should be?
No.
So, have you ladies ever experienced anything? Not really? When you were a kid? You want to talk about it? Okay.
My mom was telling me that one time she and my grandma were in the kitchen and there's a little walkway where you look into the living room and they saw a little girl run into the room and was sleeping and I was asleep. So there's nowhere to go.
So there was a baby in the house with you. There was a child in the house with you. Have you seen anything of your own?
Like shadows and stuff, but I never really paid any attention to it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
So, does anybody else have any questions?
I have one.
Okay. We have one more question.
One last question, yeah. So it's for the young lady in the beautiful mask. You said that you'd never seen or experienced anything. Is there a possibility that on any level, a doubt maybe, or something that you would have that maybe it was something, but you didn't want to believe that it was, or that it didn't seem like it exactly? Were there ever occurrences like that for you?
Probably. I'm very open to these kinds of things. But I'm a skeptic too. So I'm skeptical.
Right.
All right. Well, I think it's time to thank you. Thank you guys. If you want to sit down, you can. I think it's time we're going to go into our little news part of Eerie Echoes with Miss B.
Welcome to the news. In the news today, a motion picture has surfaced about the legend of the Lady of the Lake, also known as the Lady of Lake Ronkonkoma. Who is this mysterious lady? Buckle up, because I've got a story that'll have you thinking twice before taking a dip in Long Island's most mysterious body of water. That's right, we're talking about the one, the only Lake Ronkonkoma. And trust me, this lake doesn't just have fish. It has a legend that'll send chills down your spine, shivers through your bones. Legend has it, centuries ago, a First Nations princess fell in love with a European settler. Classic star-crossed lovers, right? But this tale didn't end with the roses and candlelit dinners. Oh no. Her people forbade the romance, and in her grief, the princess drowned herself in the waters of Lake Ronkonkoma. And get this, since that day, her restless spirit has been wandering the lake's shores, searching for her lost love. Now here's where it gets juicier. Local lore says the lake is cursed. Yep, the Lady of the Lake, as she's known, isn't just there for a lonely midnight swim. Oh no, folks. She's dragging men down to their watery doom. Apparently, one man disappears into the lake every year. And some say it's the lady, still searching for that perfect replacement for her lost lover. She's not giving up anytime soon, it seems. So if you ever find yourself by Lake Ronkonkoma, watch out, because the next time you feel a chill, it might not be the cool lake breeze. It could be the lady, waiting for her next catch. And who knows, maybe that catch will be you.
As the curtain falls on this spine-tingling first live taping of the Eerie Echoes with Miss B show, there are some people that we really need to make sure that we thank. And first off, I want to say thank you to all of you. I have met you on different levels. I've known you throughout the years on different levels. Some of you are new, some of you have known for a while. Thank you for this, because I came into this terrified, and I appreciate the patience, I appreciate the kindness, I appreciate all of it. You guys mean a lot to me, so thank you. for everyone who participated, Tim and Jamie, Elaine, Sabrina, Adam, and you guys coming in and doing the paranormal investigation before, that was a lot of your time, and we really do appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you again in the future on different things. Also, we want to make sure that we thank Mr. Chris Boggs and Boggs High Tech Solution, because they're the ones that set us up with our sound for this evening. And then we have a couple of very significant donors who have donated to the show. Mr. William and Mary Graham have donated one of our cameras. They donated it's a DJI Osmo 2 because they appreciate what we're doing for the show. And then also, my birthday was on Friday, October 11th. And in the mail, I received a DJI Osmo Pocket 3 camera to be able to use for this. And unfortunately, I have not yet been able to find out who sent it to us. So we still want to say thank you to that anonymous donor. To our fantastic audience, thank you for your support. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your love. Thank you for exploring these mysteries together. As Miss B always likes to say, stay curious, stay spooky, and always keep one eye open. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows.
Eerie Echoes with Miss B is a BAM Studios production. Hosted and co-produced by Bridget Callahan, aka Miss B. Narration by Diego Paul. Researched and written by Miss B and Diego Paul for Eerie Echoes. Produced, edited, mixed, and mastered by BAM Studios. Theme song composed and performed by Diego Paul. Distributed by BAM Studios Podcast Network.